Hi guys, we are going to just look at how to set up master pages for your document. So I am in InDesign. Um, I am going to open up my Pages palette, and under your Pages palette you're going to see master there. So for this first project, I'm going to go, I'm just going to I can duplicate a master pages. I'm going to go look at a new master pages. So it's going to have a prefix of B. It's going to be based on 2 pages. So I'm going to go OK. You can name these things too. So if you decide, oh, this is going to be like text pages, you can name it that. So I basically have it open, and the first thing I'm going to do is look at my margins and columns. So we've touched on this in the past a little bit. You can have completely symmetrical margins and columns on your document, and that's totally fine. Um, Depending on what type of book it is and how big it is, I may suggest sometimes to do a little bit more of a margin where the book is actually bound, so on the inside. So I go to my margins and click I make sure that the link is unclicked so I can change these things. Um, I'll just talk a little bit about the top margins. Typically on a print document, I'm going to have a lot more space at the top just to start with. Just because nobody wants to see text starting right up at the top of the page, unless it's like unless you're trying to do something that looks like, like it's a little bit crammed or industrial looking from top to bottom. But that for the most part, it's not going to look very good. So I'll give myself a little bit of space, and I can always adjust this. Um, I'll look at my insides and outside, so you can sort of see I have my margins and columns linked right now. So as I move them, you can see that they move together. So the left and right page move together. So I'm going to in this case, I'm going to give my inside margins a little bit more room. So I might actually just make them like 1 inch. My top one, I'm going to make it 1 inch. The outside ones, I'm going to bring those in uh, maybe to, let's just say, 0.75. I'm going to go back to my inside ones and actually make them quite a bit bigger. My bottom, I'm going to make it 0.625. Um, it's up to you how many columns you choose to use. Typically, if I know I'm going to do a 2 column grid, I'll actually just do a 2 column grid. Um, some people will have up to 8 columns on a page, and they still may only use 2 columns of text, but it does allow you to sort of move things around. So for this case, let's go with 3 columns. I'm just going to tighten up my gutter a little bit to let's say a 0.125. So there you can see there's my spreads now, basically the same on both sides. So you just want to make sure that when you're doing your document, your left page stays on your left side and right stays on the right. The next thing I'm going to do, so one thing that I wanted to add, if you decide that you want to put text boxes in there now, you absolutely can. Those will be linked, those will be there when you bring in these pages to your document. You just have to remember that. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. In this case, I don't really love the way the 3 columns are so thin, so I'm just gonna, for this case, margin and columns. And I'm just gonna change these to 2, uh, and then I'm going to just work with 2 columns in this case. So we're really gonna open up that space. So the one thing to keep in mind here is that in your head, you have to know that as you're doing your layout, your text is always going to appear very much shifted on your page, and that's absolutely okay. I've seen it where people will shift it the other way, where it's closer to the margin, but I really never recommend that. You don't want to get too close because it just makes it that much harder to read as you sort of open the book. So that's fine. I'm going to go with this for now. A lot of this is sort of personal preference. Uh, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a text box, and I'm going to change. So now we're going to look at just adding page numbers and folios. So I think I've gone over this in the past with you, but I just want to just talk a little bit about folios. They really are one of those small typographical elements on a page that can give it a level of professionalism and sophistication and character. So a lot of times what I'll try and do with my folios is really reflect this sort of style I'm going for in the book itself. Is it going to be, very sort of classic, sophisticated look? Then they might be very quiet and subdued. Or are they going to be, is it going to be kind of an edgy book? I think I've showed you examples of that before. So it could be oversized numbers. However, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the folio here so it matches my document. For the most part, if I'll often have elements that continue on both pages. If you are going to do that, what I would say is keep your titles and chapters and things like that very small. So 9 point is really much too large for a repeating folio. So I may go sort of 7 point. Then the next thing to think about is how does it relate to your text? So, I could offset it like this, and that would be fine. I could put it to the inside as well. So this again is a stylistic thing that you're going to have to really think about. So let's just say I'm going to sort of offset this like that. And then, so the folio itself is going to be quite small. I'm just going to copy and paste this this text box. I'm just going to select it and clear it out. Then I am going to go to type, and I'm going to scroll down to insert special characters. And I'm going to go markers, current page number. So what that does, that allows your document to sort of, every page that you put into your document will automatically have a page number in this place. You'll see it shows up as B here, but once you actually put in your document, that will change to a number. So let's just say in this case, I'm going to use oversized numbers. I might do something kind of funky and do a separating line in there. Side note, whenever you're using rules and things like that as dividers or charts and things like that, unless you purposely want them to be oversized and heavy, I tend, if that's the case, that's fine. I'll use a big heavy rule. But for the most part, if you're just using them as subtle elements, 1 point is really too thick. So whenever I'm using sort of dividing rules and things like that, typically I'm looking at 0.4 thickness. It's a little bit less horsey looking. And then you can look at what is the relationship of the type to the page number. Does it go sort of right through there? So let's just sort of do that. So our rule is going to go below the baseline above the letter. So if we do that, I'm just going to zoom out. So what you do on the left, you really have to do on the right as well. So I'm just going to grab all of this and flip it. So when you look at it like this, right now it's a mirror image of one another, but the reality is it really should be, the rule should be over here, the numbers should be over here, and I'll do this by actually measuring these things. Right now I'm just kind of eyeballing it, but if I do this, um, basically I can just take a box and measure it to the edge. Then I'll take that and I'll put it into the middle, and then I'll take this whole thing and just sort of line it up so it mirrors what I did on the other side. So I know now that my number is going to be in the same place. And one of the things to consider when you're using folios is once you get into pages 10 and 11, this number is going to go right across this line. So what I'll do in that case is I'm either going to situate it so that the numbers are set right, which is an easy thing to do. So if I just do that, change that to set right, relatively it should have the same relationship as the one on the left. So I'm just going to shift that over a little bit, and again, these are the type of things that I'll typically, in a big document, I'll actually measure these things out and make sure that they're matching. Right now I'm just sort of doing it from a visual, a very loose visual standpoint. So now you can sort of see that this is the way the page numbers and the folios are going to work. There's no hard, fast rules. It used to be that page numbers had to be at the bottom of the page. I tend to mix it up. You can do things, you can do many different sort of variations on these things. They just have to look good. And for the most part, like I said, they do add an interesting element to the page. So, you might decide that you're going to run these things, down the page like that. I've seen page numbers like that before. So it is an interesting part of a document. So once we're happy with what we have, I'm going to go back to my original document, and now I'm going to start making the adjustments. So in the earlier video, you sort of saw we sort of type fit everything. Now we're actually going to adjust this so that it makes some sense. So if you remember, we originally decided that because it was such a long page, our text box was going to start at, I think it was 4 inches. Yeah, 4 inches. So knowing that we've already established that, I'm going to go back into my my master pages, and I'm just going to adjust it so that I'm going to go margins and columns. I'm going to unclick that, sorry, and then I'm just going to punch in 4 at the top. 2 columns, all of that is good. And then I'll double click over here, and because we broke the because we actually broke the link between the 2 pages, you'll have to do it again. Margins and columns, type in 4 there, go OK. So now you can sort of see that what we have is actually going to work.